so you don't forget to do that.
Hi, everybody. For those of you just joining us, we're getting ready to get started with our nursing presentation, nursing at UCCS. So go ahead, sign in. We'll get started here in about a minute or two. And you can see our panelists on the screen. And we'll be getting started here pretty quickly. At the bottom of your screen, or maybe it's at the top, you'll see a place where you can type in questions. We will try and answer some as we go through. Some will be answered live, some will be answered in the chat box. Yeah, just be ready. Okay, we'll wait another minute or so for everybody to pop in. All right, everybody. As you're joining us, again, my name is Linda Goodwin. I'm an admissions counselor from UCCS. This is our presentation on the undergraduate nursing program at UCCS. I've worked at UCCS for almost 20 years now. It's getting there. Our nursing program has grown and changed over the years. If you do have questions for the panelists, just type them in the Q&A box at the bottom. We'll answer some live, some in person. So now I'd like to get started. I'd like to introduce to you Sue Davis. She's an MSN and RN, and she is one of our senior instructors in the nursing program at UCCS. All righty, thank you, Sue.
Hi, Linda, thanks. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to a Monday night right after Thanksgiving. What I'd like to do before I introduce all the panelists, all the students who is the people you want to hear from, is just give you a very brief history of Bethel so you know what our history is, where we've come from, and where we are now. So we started actually in 1903 as a college, and we stayed as a college and a diploma program. And in the 1920s, we joined up with Memorial Central, which is now University of Colorado Health System. And we became the College of Bethel College of Nursing. And we were, the nurses, students lived in what used to be the Ronald McDonald House, right within a block of Memorial Central. That's still there. They have since closed that Ronald McDonald House, I think in the last couple of years, and moved it to the north site by the new Children's Hospital. But I've actually been in that house. It's a house, and that's where the students lived. It was a dorm. There's old pictures, and the whole thing was there. And we stayed like that, and Memorial Hospital was city owned. And so Bethel was affiliated with them, and we were kind of owned by the city. And then after World War II, we kept expanding. We were still a diploma program, which meant that it was a 3-year degree. In years past, you could become a registered nurse by getting a 2-year degree, a 3-year degree, or a 4-year degree. The 3-year degree programs ended nationwide pretty much in the 1980s, as it did with Bethel. In the 1980s, we no longer were a 3-year program. And at that point in time, we started to affiliate ourselves with the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, and became a 4-year program, which when you graduate, you receive a Bachelor of Science in nursing. So currently in the nursing profession, you can get an associate degrees of nursing, which is a 2-year degree, or you can get a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. As of 2020, this year, across the nation, the presidential mandate is that all nursing professionals need to be moving towards a 4-year degree. So if you are a prior 2-year degree student, you need to work towards getting your 4-year degree. Moving forward, just so you know, moving forward in the nursing profession, a lot of the hospitals are going to be requiring 4-year degree nurses. They're not going to hire 2-year degree nurses anymore. So that is why Bethel is a good option for you, because it is a 4-year degree program. So we actually hooked up with UCCS in 1992. And then in 1997, and at that point we had an undergraduate program, and then we developed ourselves and got a master's program. And then and we were still off campus at that point. And in 2003, which is 17 years ago, Bethel moved and located at University Hall at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. Prior to that point, we were in different locations all over the city. And in 2003, we landed there and have been there since. Since that time, we have also, in the late 2000s, we developed a doctorate of nursing program. We have a RN to BSN nursing program. We have the traditional nursing program. And so for traditional students, you have the option of coming in and doing a traditional program, which would be 4 to 5 years roughly. We also have another program called the Accelerated Program, which is for students who have a degree already in something else. It doesn't matter what their degree is in. This needs to be a Bachelor of something. And then they would come back into Bethel, apply and get accepted to Bethel, and they would work to maintain and attain their Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. It's called an accelerated program because in the traditional program, you have 3 years of study at Bethel to obtain your Bachelor of Science degree. In the accelerated program, they're there half the time. They're there about 18 months. Not even that. It's more like 15 months. And we don't take anything out of the courses. The courses are the same. The content is the same. So that's why it's called accelerated. Then there's also a third option, which is the RN to BSN option, which is for people who have a 2-year degree that need to come and have their associate's degree and who need to come back and get their bachelor's degree. So we have the ability for that to occur too. So I have been teaching at Bethel since 2007. So I've been there, if I do the math real quick, 13 years. So I'm not too far behind Linda. I have seen a lot of changes. We are moving and progressing. Our school is currently located at University Hall. However, we are projected to be building 3 of the Lane Center, which is going to be a 10-building medical complex down off Nevada by the Costco shopping center area. Right now they have built building 1 and building 2. So our school is designated at this point to be building 3. It's part of the City of Champions renovation project. So I don't have a date on when that will occur, but that is coming. We just opened building 2 in the Hibble Sports Center, and that has a lot of state-of-the-art equipment for health sciences. So all the ladies that are surrounding me here are some of the board of directors that I have for the Bethel Student Nurses Association. I am the faculty advisor. And so what I'd like them to do is go around and introduce themselves, tell you guys who they are, what year they are in school, what their position is on the board, and why they chose Bethel. So you guys can do it however you'd like.
I can go. Or Sarah, do you want to go? Okay, cool. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Grace. I'm a junior in the nursing program. And then this is my second year on the BSNA board. My first year, I was the community service director. And this year, I'm the secretary. And I chose UCCS for a lot of different reasons. I'm originally from Denver, so I knew I wanted to stay in Colorado, but I love the Colorado Springs community, and Bethel specifically has a program set up where you get 3 full years of clinical time, which I really liked that. I thought that it's like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to learn everything in 2 years. So I liked that 3-year format. And so that's why I chose Bethel.
So my name is Sarah. I'm a senior in the nursing program. My position currently is I'm actually the president of the Student Nurses Association. And like Grace, I was on the board last year as well. I was the merchandise director last year. And I chose Bethel because I'm from Colorado Springs, born and raised. So it was a good option for me personally to be able to stay at home and live with my parents for a good number of years through college, because it saved me a whole lot of money. So that was a big draw for me personally. But I also did some research on some of the nursing programs in the state, and kind of like Grace, it was a 3-year clinical program, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I liked the idea of still staying in the city and getting a really good education through it as well. And just stepping foot on campus, I just really loved the environment, and I loved the people I met through UCCS. So yeah, that's me.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole. I am also a senior in the nursing program. I am the student faculty liaison on the student nursing board. So the position is exactly like it sounds. I serve as kind of the go-between between students and faculty. I was placed on the 4-year program, so I'm in my 4th year of nursing school, and I'll be graduating in May. I think 2 of the main reasons I chose Bethel were what both Grace and Sarah had said about it being a 3-year program. Looking into it, to have just that extra year kind of always let me feel like I had a leg up in compared to the other schools that I looked into. And one of the other big reasons was Bethel has a really good reputation. You ask a lot of the nurses around, or even, doctors, any healthcare professionals, a lot of people know Bethel. They know the name, they know that it produces good students, and that's something that, that having that reputation behind you that was something that was really important to me as well.
I'm Dagny. I'm a junior in the 4-year track here at Bethel. I'm currently the merchandise director at BSNA. This is my first year on the board. And the reason I chose Bethel specifically, I always knew I wanted to go to UCCS. I moved here when I was 16. And so, like others have said, it was really convenient, and I was able to live at home and commute for a good amount of the time. And so that saved a lot of money. And then, like Nicole was saying, Bethel, I had heard about Bethel actually because I worked at Memorial, and everyone knew Bethel and UCCS students, and they always spoke very highly of them. And so, yeah, that's why I decided to go to Bethel in the end.
Hi, everybody. My name is Madison. I'm a junior in the nursing program. I'm actually on the 5-year track. And I chose to go to Bethel for all the reasons that everybody else has stated. But what really sold me was the simulation lab. We have like state-of-the-art technology. The robots, they like talk to you, they throw up, they have babies. It's some really cool stuff. So that was really what sold me. Some nursing programs don't have that, and Bethel did. And along with their reputation, I think it's an amazing school. So that's why I chose to go here.
Great, thanks you guys. I agree. I'm a very big proponent of clinical experience. I don't think as a student you can get enough clinical experience. I also went to a program that offered 3 years of clinical experience as an undergraduate rather than just the basic 2-2. And mine was a 1-3, just like Bethel's is. And I loved it. I think it's a great It's a great platform to do it. So now we're going to give you a treat, and all the students are one by one going to go around and share one of their memorable clinical experiences that they've had as a student. So who wants to start?
We can just go in the same order, I guess.
Okay.
All right. So because of COVID, I have had close to like very limited clinical experiences like in the hospital. But this semester I was doing my mental health rotation, and so I got to spend multiple weeks at a mental health facility. And just, I wouldn't say there were anything happening there that was like super crazy, but I got to speak with this one gentleman, and he kind of just told me his life story and kind of how he ended up there, and his like true desire to get better and to improve on his mental health issues. And I talked to him for like 2 hours, and I went in that day not even thinking I'd have time to talk to anyone, and I came home that day and I just cried and cried and cried because I was so like emotionally attached to this individual and his story, and all I wanted to do was like help him get better. But yeah, and so it was it was a good reinforcer that I was in the right field, because you really get to know people and you really get to see their soul and like and how you can make a difference in their lives, and that was really rewarding. So
Thanks, Grace.
I can go next because mine kind of ties in with Grace's. We were in the same clinical this semester, so I was also in mental health. And kind of the same thing. It was actually the last day of clinical, and nothing really crazy had happened. You know, I did my assignments and whatever projects we were supposed to do, and then the last day of our clinical, we had like more free time to kind of just sit with patients and talk to them. And I ended up speaking with this one lady for, I'm not sure how long it was, like an hour to 2 hours. And like Grace, she completely opened up to me and told me everything about and what was going on in her life and like what led her to be in the mental hospital. And I had never felt so trusted by someone. And like Grace said, that just like really, because I knew it beforehand, you know, that of course I wanted to be a nurse, but that just really, you know, solidified it for me. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. There's no other option. So I think I'll always remember her even after I graduate and like become a nurse.
So my experience is a little bit different. I've had quite a bit of clinical experience overall, just because I was fortunate enough to still get some hospital things before COVID. So I was very fortunate in that sense, but actually the most memorable thing that I had actually just happened this semester. Nicole and I got to go to the Children's Hospital for our pediatric rotation. And I always knew I wanted to go into pediatrics, but I got to go into the NICU, and I got to care for a baby who was born at 26 weeks. And when I was taking care of her, she was 1 pound, 10 ounces. So she was really, really small. And just being able to care for her and help her just become healthy enough to be able to go back home to her family where she's supposed to be was just really very touching for me. And it actually solidified where I want to go into after graduation. It was that initial thing that was like, yes, I want to do NICU. Like, this is what I want to do. And that was just very, very nice for me, because other clinical experiences, like, I enjoyed them, but I never felt called to a specific floor during other rotations, but this one really did that for me. So it was a really, really nice experience to be able to get that affirmation of, yes, this is what I want to do.
So I've also had a good amount of clinical experience. I did lose some of mine because of COVID, but I've still had plenty of experience and lots of stories. But one stands out to me because for me with clinical, my experiences usually appeal to either the side of the like me wanting to love on people side, but also the me wanting to learn and be knowledgeable about things. And this specific experience kind of gave me both. I was doing my OB rotation, and so I was taking care of a patient. She wasn't even supposed to have her kids yet. She was having twins, and she unexpectedly had to have a C-section. This particular patient had a history of anxiety and was very stressed out the entire time. And I kind of took it upon myself to be the place of her support person while she was in the C-section. At the same time, I also got to see a C-section, and also one of the babies came out. It's called NCLEX, but in the amniotic sac. So it came out like in a bubble. And basically that doesn't happen with a lot of births. And so that was really cool for me to see. That appealed to the knowledge side of me, wanting to learn more about how the body works. But also I was there and I was able to comfort the mom, and that was so rewarding for me. And hearing her afterwards just telling me thank you. And even to further up on that story, the clinical rotation I had after that was at Children's Hospital in the NICU. And one of her babies was still in the NICU. So I kind of got to follow up and see that continuity of care as well, which was just overall, that whole experience was really great for me.
So my clinical experience was pretty similar to Grace and Dagny's. I also did my mental health rotation this semester. And probably the most rewarding thing that happened was I was talking with a patient. They have like a room where all the patients can come out of their like personal rooms and like talk to each other, and they do like group therapy sessions and things like that. And at this point in the day, they were drawing. They were doing like drawing therapy, music therapy, stuff like that. And there was one patient who was sitting, he was kind of off to the side. And so I just went and sat next to him, tried talking to him. He didn't really want to talk. So I gave him some time, but then I started writing notes on the paper that they had on the table. And he started writing me notes back, and we just had conversation on the pieces of paper for a really long time. And then he started to finally open up and actually talk to me, and we were laughing, joking around, played some cards, and I thought really nothing of it. When I was getting ready to leave, the charge nurse on the floor had pulled me aside, and she said that he had been there for 5 days and not talking to anybody. And she said that I made a really big difference in his life and everything, and to keep that same attitude moving forward. So I will always remember that. I'm like shaking right now just thinking about it, but it was really, really cool. Best thing that's happened this semester so far. So that's my experience.
That's great. So one of the questions that frequently happens from the audience, and so I thought we'd tackle it right away before we open it up to audience questions, is a lot of people want to know, can you work and go to nursing school? So can you guys answer that question?
Yes, you definitely can. It depends on your personality a little bit, is how I always go about it, is if kind of if you have that work mentality and school mentality, you can definitely balance it. It's doable. I personally have worked 2 jobs all of college and still do. And I applied for a 3rd one last week. So it's definitely doable. You just got to kind of pace yourself and know your limits. So that's my opinion on it, at least.
Yeah, I agree with Sarah. I'm the same way. I've worked 2 jobs my entire nursing career. Like she said, you probably already know what kind of person you are. Whether you can handle that. And maybe for some semesters, definitely it's a little bit more difficult. So maybe kind of holding back how much you work during those harder semesters is more appropriate. But it's definitely doable. Like, don't completely rule it out.
So I think what we'll do now is go ahead and open it up to the audience for questions. You can direct them to me. You can direct them to any of the students, or direct them to Linda if you want. So we can start like that, Linda, if that's okay.
Sure, that's fine. Just type your questions in the chat box or the question and answer box. Here's one. What percent of pre-nursing students are accepted into the nursing program?
Well, there's 2 types of nursing students when you apply to Bethel. There is a group called pre-nursing, and then there's a group called nursing prep. And that is a lot of that is based on your HCT score and your high school GPA. So you'll be put into that. I can tell you more nursing prep students make it into Bethel than pre-nursing students. I also happen to teach a freshman GPS course, which all of the students have to take. It's a gateway seminar course. You as a student will have to sign up for one of those. There's multiple, I think there's like 60 some, but those are ones that basically help you as a first semester freshman learn how to be successful in college. So I am not shameless. I will plug my class. I co-teach with a dentist and a chiropractor, and sometimes we get, used to be the medical director for the college was teaching with us. She since has left and gone into private practice, and I'm hoping she'll come back next year and teach again with us, but it's up in the air. But anyway, our course is called Club Med. And I know, Grace, you were in Club Med. So you can speak to that. So that there's all kinds of things that you can do. What other questions can we answer for you?
Yeah, and real quick, I'd like to add to that. It depends on the applicant and the clinical applicant pool each year. It's generally anywhere from 1/3 to 2/3 of the students get admitted depending on the pool size. For those of you applying to UCCS this fall, we are test optional, so we will not use your ACT scores to SAT or ACT scores to place you into nursing prep or pre-nursing. We're going to look mostly at your high school GPA. Another question is, and how many students are accepted into the program based on the semester? We admit once per year, about 78 students per year for the following school year, and then they are divided into either a fall semester admit or a spring semester admit. I think it's a few more in the fall.
There's 42 in the fall and 36 in the spring.
Great. Okay. And then another question is, can you briefly go over the nursing intent program, the 5-year program? Do you know what the difference is between the 4 and the 5-year program?
Or yeah, I can answer that.
Okay.
I'm in the 5-year program, if that's okay with you. Is
sure.
That good? Okay, yeah. So I'm in the 5-year nursing program. I was originally in the 4-year, but I ended up switching. Basically, like the main difference is if you're in the 4-year, you're going to take like chemistry, anatomy, all your electives, you're going to take them at the same time. But if you're in the 5-year program, they split up. Chemistry you take 1 year, and then you're going to take anatomy the next year. And those are the two most difficult classes. And the nursing school also really looks at them because they're science classes for you to get admitted. So the higher your grades are in that classes, it like helps you a little bit more with your application, especially now, like the previous, like these people that just got accepted, they didn't look at their HSC score. So they looked more at their GPA and what grades they got in their science classes. So the reason I switched was because chemistry was really hard for me, and I just wanted to focus on that. And then I love anatomy as well and physiology, so I wanted to spend more time on that my next year. But they're pretty much the same. It just makes it a little easier, in my opinion, to get accepted.
Yeah, I'll dovetail on what Madison said. When you apply to UCCS, it's 2 steps. When you apply to UCCS and you want to go to Bethel, it's a 2-step process. The first thing as a freshman you have to do is you apply and get accepted to the UCCS. That does not mean that you're accepted to Bethel. That means that you're accepted to UCCS. And at the end of either your freshman or your sophomore year, depending on whether you want to be a 4-year or a 5-year student, then you will apply. We help you. We tell you what you have to do. You will apply to Bethel, and then you are accepted or not. Okay. And like Linda was saying, the acceptance rate depends on the number of students and what the quality of those students is the year that you apply. It's really that simple. We take 78 a year. That's a very weird number. Why 78? Why not 80? Why not 75? Because it's based on clinical site placement. Those are the sites that we have that we can get. We do not take you into Bethel if we know we do not have a clinical place to put you, because that's not right. So
Going off. Sorry,
yeah.
I was just gonna add something, Sue. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, going off of that, that's another reason I chose UCCS. They have a lot of spots.
Yeah.
78 is a lot, and they get top choice at the hospitals here.
Yeah,
Because
I've been in those meetings where we're vying against other schools and other facilities across the city, in Pueblo and in Denver, because they come down to the Springs or up to the Springs if you're in Pueblo. And I've been in meetings where the facilities are awarding sites. And I want you to know that there are like 27 places trying to get in facilities, schools, trying to get placements at Memorial Central alone. So, and of that, Bethel gets top pick. So we get top choice, and kind of everybody else gets leftovers after we pick. So we get the cream of the crop, and then everybody else gets what we don't take. So that's really a good thing. But as a sophomore or junior, or as a freshman or sophomore, whether you're 4 or 5 years, then you'll apply to Bethel. If you apply and you get accepted, then you'll either start fall or spring, and you're informed about that. And then if for some reason you're not accepted into Bethel on your first application, you are allowed to apply again the next year. You have to wait an entire year to apply again, because we only do a once a year admission, and that occurs, the deadline for that is March 1st.
I can actually speak on that, on not getting admitted the first time you apply. So I started on the 4-year plan. So I took chemistry and anatomy all together my first year, and I was not accepted the first time I applied. So I worked with the advisor, whose name is Erin. She is my advisor, and I worked very closely with her to come up with kind of a game plan on what to do next. She talks about a plan B, whether that's applying to another program or trying again. And what I did is I was pretty set on Bethel, so I tried again, and studied a lot more and worked harder than I did the first time, and got accepted in the second time I applied.
Good. Yeah, so you're allowed to apply twice to Bethel. If after the second time that you apply, you're not accepted the second time, then we ask you to go somewhere else. That's just the way it works, because we have so many applicants. Usually, I think the applicant pool is somewhere around 170 or so. Is that right, Linda? Around 170-ish?
Yeah, it varies from year to year. It could be like 150 to 225 is generally what we run, somewhere in there.
And so out of that pool of 150 to 225, we take 78 people. Okay, so like what Sarah was saying and Madison was saying, when you start as a freshman at UCCS, your freshman year is very important, because what Bethel looks at is your college grades. Your high school doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is how you're doing in college. And those are your A&P, anatomy and physiology, and chemistry. And you'll have English, and usually you'll have a psych class and an English class. So if that becomes too heavy of a workload for you, because I teach freshmen as well, you have to work really hard to maintain a good GPA to get into Bethel as a freshman. And so if by September, October of your freshman year, if you're struggling in either anatomy and physiology or chemistry and you're on the 4-year plan, then I suggest, I've advised students several times to go talk to the advisor and potentially drop either chemistry or A&P and go on the 5-year plan and save their GPA so that they have a good chance of getting in. Because you're looking, to be honest with you, you need to pretty much shoot to have a GPA of about 3.5 or better to get in.
All right, couple questions now about clinicals. How many different units do you observe during clinicals, and how is it decided where your clinical experience would be?
Who wants to answer that?
I can take that one.
Okay.
Depending on, I guess, what year and which clinical you're being placed in, it's kind of a, you get placed where you get placed. You can say your preference. A lot of times, people who are parents get first top choices on preferences. Teachers try their very best to accommodate as best as you can. We send students to UC Health and Centura Systems in the springs. In terms of what rotations we have Sue's class, which is fundamental. So that's just general. That'll be the first clinical you place at on a med surg floor, just a general inpatient area in a hospital. You have mental health, you have OB, so obstetrics and pediatrics, and then community health, and then you have a lot of med surg clinicals. So you have 1 full semester of med surg, and then you have advanced med surg as the senior. I think that's all of them.
Mm-hmm. So we're pretty much based in the Springs. We do all the systems here in the Springs. We actually go to UCH Memorial, North and Central. We go to Children's Hospital at the North Campus. We go to Penrose, Maine, Penrose St. Francis. We go to for mental health, we go to Cedar Springs and what's the other one? Peak Vista? Peakview. And then also we go down to Pueblo for at the State Mental Health Hospital for mental health. That's one of your choices. For pediatrics, we go to Children's Hospital here in the Springs, and there's a small group of students that will go to Denver, to the Children's Hospital in Denver. OB is totally in the Springs. Community health is totally in the Springs, and it's just all over the city.
Cool. Another question is, can you sign a contract? Can you sign a contract with any local hospitals to work for them to reimburse student debt? And can you sign and work while going to college, or is that after you graduate? And just nursing scholarships too, if you could talk about those.
Yeah. So there used to be a program, it's no longer in existence, where both UCH Memorial and Penrose offered scholarships to students. They would pay pretty much full tuition and then guarantee you a job upon graduation for 2 years. That went by the wayside about 6 years ago due to money from the facilities. So there is no contract that you can sign with any of the facilities that will guarantee you a job. However, there are lots of opportunities that we share with you that you can take advantage of. One is called the Advanced Care Partner Program, where you can apply and get hired by UCH and Children's as well. And you can work basically as a step above a CNA and below a nurse. So you're kind of functioning like a nursing student, frankly, where you can, you do all the stuff that the CNA does, but you do more of tech stuff. For example, you can insert Foleys and you can do NG tubes and that sort of thing, which CNAs cannot. If you get hired as an advanced care partner, the chances of you getting a job in that facility after you graduate are really high. Also, you can work as a CNA. We have lots of opportunities. I know Dagny works as a CNA right now. And Sarah's, hopefully, did you get the job?
They haven't called back yet. I'm supposed to hear tomorrow-ish. They were deciding today.
Okay. So people, there's opportunities that come along. We also have the hiring people for the 3 main facilities in town, as well as Children's, Penrose Memorial and Children's, come to Bethel to talk to you as students about how to apply for a job, and all the ins and outs of applying and interviewing and when to apply and all of that. So we give you all that information. And then it's up to you to what you do with it. But there's no more contracts or guarantees. That doesn't happen.
Oh, another question is, if you're accepted into the program that starts in the spring, what do you do that fall semester?
Oh, there's other classes that you'll take.
I was in the spring cohort. Do you want me to take this?
Yeah, good. What'd you do?
So when you apply, you actually get a
have coffee?
what?
Did you just go lay on the beach and soak in the rays and wait?
Yeah, it was great. When you apply, you actually choose your preference between spring and fall. 90% of the people choose fall. I actually chose spring. It kind of spaces out your first year a little bit. So what it is that fall semester, you finish like your prereqs. So microbiology, and it was developmental psychology, and then I got all of my electives done. And then that spring semester started all of my nursing courses except for my clinical course. So then I had all my beginning nursing courses during the spring semester. And then when summer came, I had to give up my summer. That was the one like downside to it, but that was my first clinical course, and it was strictly the clinicals. So I didn't have extra classes on top of it. So for me, it was just kind of a gentler way for me to kind of be guided into it. The fall, the way that it works is you take all those prereqs and your nursing courses, and then in the spring, you do your clinical as well as more nursing courses.
I'd also like to point out that I started in the fall, but I also know a lot of people that wanted to start in the spring, like Nicole, just due to various like life circumstances. So if you are interested in studying abroad or we're part of like the National Student Exchange, I actually know someone in my grade who he spent that fall semester studying in Hawaii just because that was something he wanted to do. And like, since it was kind of just more general education classes and not nursing specific classes, he could do that and have the credits transfer. And then I also know someone who his wife was expecting in the fall semester, and he wanted to be able to be there and be present for his newborn daughter. And so he wanted to be put in the spring just to spread that out too. So depending on your life circumstance, it can also be super helpful to start in the spring.
Yeah, I learned that Hawaii is I don't know what you call it, a partner state with us. So you can go to University of Hawaii and pay in-state tuition.
I'm really disappointed that I didn't know about this sooner.
We have a sister school down there.
Yeah. It's called National Student Exchange. It's like study abroad, but it's in the US. So yeah, why not?
So I could have laid on the beach all day and
there you go.
drink margaritas.
That's why I said it. I was like, it's too funny because I know someone who actually went and sat on the beach during that semester.
Yep.
All righty. Does anybody else have any questions for us? There was a question previously too, what do we look at? Basically, to get into clinicals, we're looking at really strong science students. That's one of the first indicators they look at in your college GPA is what was your science score. Generally, we do require the HSC exam. That's another thing they look at is your science score and the HSC exam along with your overall score. I saw a question earlier which disappeared about do we take the T's? No, when we offer the exams, it must be the HSC exam. So
I can't emphasize enough the importance of the science scores on that.
Right.
I sat on the admissions committee for a long time, and so those HSC scores on those 3 sciences, it's chemistry, biology, and anatomy and physiology, 2 of which you take as a freshman, chemistry and A and B. The only one you don't take is biology. But you should probably take that as a high school student. But those 3 scores, if any one of those scores individually is lower than 80, we will not take you in the program. And we want that CUME score to be high. Most of the students that are admitted to Bethel have a high science CUME. And we've learned over time with students is that it's kind of an indicator of success. If you have a student that's struggling in the sciences, we don't want to admit you knowing full well that you're not going to make it in the nursing program. We don't think that's fair. So if you're doing well with the sciences, the chances of you doing well at Bethel and in the nursing program, we have found have been very good. There are a lot of scholarships out there available for students. I recommend that you talk to the finance, Office of Finance, and whoever does the scholarships. There are a ton of them out there available. Every year there's scholarships awarded. Bethel offers scholarships. The Friends of Nursing Foundation offers scholarships, the Colorado Nurses Foundation. So there is money available, but those science scores are critical.
Okay, right. And you'll take the HSC exam spring of your freshman year or whatever spring of your sophomore year, whenever you're going to meet all the requirements to be eligible for application. And I've got 2 questions here. What is the pass rate for the HSC exam at UCCS, and what is the NCLEX pass rate at UCCS?
I don't know what the pass rate is on the HSC, to be honest with you. I don't have that number on the top of my head. I can just tell you that the HSC test itself has 2, 4, 7 different exam pieces to it. 2 of them are English. One is a reading comprehension and the other is a grammar kind of a thing. Then there's 2 math things, but all the math is really is adding, subtracting, multiplying, divide. There's no calculus or algebra or geometry or anything like that. And then you have those 3 sciences that I mentioned, biology, A&P, and chemistry. You want to strive for a bare minimum of an 80 on each one of those scores. And if that's what you got on all of them, I'm not sure you'd get into Bethel. My experience has been on those HSC tests, you want to strive to get as close to high 80s or not in the 90s,
Yeah.
As best you can, because that's the scores we see. And
generally, the last few years, it's run at least a 92 or above on the HSC overall and in the sciences. So
yeah, it's pretty high.
It is.
And the pass rate for the NCLEX is about 95%.
Cool. All righty. Any other questions we can answer for you? Does UCCS help prep you for the HSC during your freshman year? What was your experience with that, ladies?
Oh, Madison can answer that.
Yeah, I can answer it. Okay. So my experience with the HSC, I get really stressed out when I take tests. I don't know about anybody else, but that's just me. I ended up getting an 88%, completely thought I bombed it. I was bawling my eyes out for like 2 weeks until I got the notification that I got accepted. So it honestly depends on how well everybody else did. I found out from talking to my peers that a lot of people got an 88%. So they just take like the top 78 scores, look at that, and then they also look at your GPA and science classes like we talked about. But it honestly depends on how well everybody else does. So it is in your best interest to score higher, but it's not the end of the world if you don't get above a 90. Don't think like I do, think positive. But what I suggest doing is if you go on Amazon, or the UCCS bookstore has them too. You get a HSC study book and just study the thing from front to back. They're not that long. They're like this thick, the smallest book you will see in nursing school, trust me. But you study it from front to back, and just I studied like 2 weeks before. Some people studied the whole spring semester, depending on how you study, but don't worry about it until your spring semester or like the second semester of your freshman year, just because it'll stress you out. And then just get a study book. You could find a tutor if you want, but just go from there. You kind of have to do it on your own. But if you talk to a counselor or the professors, they will point you in the right direction for sure.
And Madison, what is
Isn't there a program about mentors and mentees?
Yeah, aren't you our mentor-mentee person?
Duh, yeah, okay, I totally forgot to mention that. That is super embarrassing. Okay, but so I'm the image of nursing director on the BSNA board, and my job is to basically make the mentor-mentee program. So I pair freshmen up with mentors that are already in the nursing program, and they can help you specifically study for the HSC. Like when I did it and signed up for the mentor program, I wasn't the director at the time for it, but I like gave my freshman mentee their HSC book. So sometimes people will pass down their materials. You can meet on Zoom at a coffee shop. Hopefully you're wearing your mask if you do that. But other than that, that's a program too that is really useful.
And it's free.
And I'd like
Yes.
to add, oh, are you good, Madison?
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. I'd also like to add that in general, yeah, like I really appreciated having a mentor for my HSC, and he actually ended up giving me a lot of his like review books, so I didn't have to go buy them myself, which was really kind. But also like UCCS, the prereqs that you take before applying do a really good job with preparing you. I thought I'd be going to the HSC, the anatomy portion, thinking like I'm gonna have to know exactly how the calcium ion moves through the channel to like move a muscle. Like literally the questions were like which bone is a bone in your arm, and you're like, okay, like I can do this, you know. And like I hadn't taken biology since high school, and I was like, I'm gonna bomb this, I need to study. And it was like, is a plant considered a living thing? Like you can do it, guys, like you are prepared. So don't worry, don't stress about it too much.
One thing I recommend is I used apps on my phone that sent me like daily quizzes and practice stuff to help me study, because it would like track how you were doing. So it would tell me like, oh, you're not doing as well in this section or this specific topic in anatomy or whatever it was. It would kind of track and tell me where I needed to focus more and where I was good at. So I could focus my studying more on things that I know I needed to, and not necessarily spend all the time on grammar when I didn't need it. So I used a lot of apps on my phones, as well as the books that Madison and Grace have talked about. So those were really helpful for me.
If I can also add, it really depends on like how you are as a person, how much you study. Like I know people who didn't study at all, and I know people who study for months. So like if you're like a science kind of person and you're easily, like you can easily remember stuff, then you'll probably study less, but it all depends on how you study as a person, like what makes you feel more comfortable.
All right, audience, we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions if anybody'd like to ask anything else. Oh, and are you still accepting online HSC tests due to COVID?
I don't know exactly what the policies are changing all the time. So whatever I say today may not be true tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you're just going to have to see what happens with the HSC test when you get to the point of having to take the HSC test.
Right.
So for you guys right now, you're not even at UCCS yet. So we're looking at the HSC test at least a year away for you, or possibly 2 years. And if we're still doing lockdown COVID in 2 years, I think I will be crazy by that point. So I'm hoping that will be changed.
Right.
So I wouldn't worry about it yet because we'll get the information to you as to what we'll accept and how it's done. We don't keep that a secret.
Yeah, the HSC was required for the students applying for to the accelerated program this fall. The traditional program did not require the HSC last spring and went with science scores.
Right.
And then one more question. Do you have an example of the curriculum to follow from freshman year on if you enter as a pre-nursing student? And yes, that's available on our website, but does anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah. I'm a tour guide on campus, and so I get nursing students a lot, and we literally have a stack like this thick of our curriculum plans because everyone wants them. But just go on Google like UCCS nursing 4-year plan or something. It'll come right up, and yeah, you can download a PDF of it. It's super helpful. I still use it to this day to like know what classes I'm supposed to be taking next semester. It's super straightforward, super accurate of like exactly what you're going to be taking. So I would just look that
And
up.
it's very structured.
Yeah. Alrighty then. Okay. No more questions. Does anybody have one last question for us? Alrighty, it doesn't look like it. So thank you everybody for attending.
Here's something.
Oh, go ahead.
Something from Grant.
I'm a
did you see that transfer student? I missed it.
I'm a transfer student who is accepted to UCCS. Grant, you'll meet with your academic advisor. Once you go through orientation, you will meet with your academic advisor and she will help you pick classes to get you ready. The advisors in our nursing program are excellent. They will get you ready for fall semester. They will have the best instructions for you, best picks for what classes you should take. So.
And Grant, real quick on top of that, I actually work in orientation, and I'm the specific nursing orientation leader. So I work with nursing students coming in and help them register for those courses. And if you are accepted into the spring semester, you can already sign up to have an individual meeting with an orientation leader to go over that. So you can always sign up for a meeting with me. And then we'll do them again over the summer for fall admits. So we do that and go over that whole process with you and give you a list from your advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to give you guys the perspective from the instructor professor side of things, I do not know what flavor all these students are. By that, I mean, are they a 4-year student, a 5-year student, a transfer student, an 8-year student, or whatever student they are. And it doesn't matter to me. And we're just happy that you're here. And so we treat you all the same. Like a 4-year student doesn't get preferential treatment over a 5. It doesn't, I don't even know. Like tonight's the first time I found out what flavor all these 5 people were. I had no idea. So, and I've had them in classes and worked with them for 2 years now. So it doesn't matter. We're just glad you're with us. So what you need to do is pick the best path that works the best for you, for your family, yourself, and your life, and your financial situation, whatever that is. So, and the advisors are the ones that can help you learn all those options, and then you can make those decisions.
All righty. Well, it looks like our time is up. So thank you for all our audience for attending. Thank you for coming. If you have more questions, you can just email us at go@uccs.edu. That's just go@uccs.edu. And thank you to all the panelists for coming tonight. It was very helpful to all of us. So, and stay in contact with us. Let us know how we can help you. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.